bit of an introduction before we even talk about why this particular guest is here. I would like to remind you that one of the things I love to do with this podcast is to share with you people and experiences that really help us to live our lives with more passion and more purpose. And especially right now with what's going on in the world, it's also been really powerful for me to take a look at examples of women in particular who are making these great shifts and pivots to be able to serve their people on an even deeper level. And sometimes that requires even reimagining who their people are. And so I have with me today, Rosanna Berardi. I met Rosanna through a networking group in Western New York. She's an incredible woman who owns her own immigration practice as an attorney, had multiple offices throughout the world, and is making a big move in her life now to integrate an entirely new business. So welcome, Rosanna. I would love for you to share a little bit more about this journey that you're on.
Well, thanks for having me, Melissa. I absolutely am thrilled to be here. So thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm on a really intense journey. A lot of people during the pandemic have reorganized their closets and binge watch more shows than they care to admit. And that's not me. So for the last 6 months or so, I've had this idea brewing in my head. I've been an immigration lawyer for 23 years, and I've had my own practice for 15 years. And I realized about 6 months ago that I'm ready to take the next step. And my next step, I am super passionate about helping women business owners. We have a definitely unique set of challenges in terms of being business owners and trying to keep it all together. So about 6 months ago, I was playing around with, I think I want to do some consulting for women business owners. And then, life happened and I was busy. But at the beginning of the year, in January, I sort of hit a wall and I was just not inspired to do anything. And fast forward a few months later, the pandemic hits and I had some time on my hands. And I thought, you know what, this is the time. So I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to start my new business. So I launched my new business called High Wire Woman. And High Wire Woman's a consulting business that creates systems and solutions for working women. So I chose the name High Wire Woman because I think of myself. I'm a mom. My son Salvatore will turn 14 in a few weeks. I'm a wife. I own a business. Now I own 2 businesses. I travel a lot for work. One of our family passions is traveling. I cook most days of the week. And people say to me, how do you do it all? And when I visualize a high wire woman, it's that woman just trying to balance, right? We're all just trying to figure it out. And I've learned the hard way over the last 15 years that it doesn't have to be this hard. There are definite things that you can do to automate your life and even if you can make 1 or 2 significant changes, it will allow you to take back the one thing that we're all clamoring for, and that's more time. So I've been working like a lunatic on High Wire Woman. And when I look back, we're 8 weeks into it and I have a whole new business and I'm super, super excited to share it and to start working with women business owners and working women in general. So you don't have to own your own business. To qualify, you just need to be working.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And this is a particularly interesting time, as you and I were talking about before we started the show today, for working women. We find ourselves amid a lot of new roles in our lives for many of us, involving homeschooling and lots of other activities that perhaps were introduced at the beginning of the pandemic. And so there's even more juggling to do right now.
For sure.
How do you approach, this is always an interesting topic for me, how do you approach the idea of balance to me? Because I picture that woman, right? I picture her up on the high wire and she's balanced precariously. I'm thinking like Barnum and Bailey Circus in Buffalo back in the 80s when I'm watching them try to go across balancing these things. So how do you approach the topic of balance?
So you can't just fake balance. Balance to be something intentional and it has to be planned. There's no way, with all of the things that are thrown at us in our fast-paced world, particularly now, where not only are we working from home, but we're teaching our kids. And a lot of us are cooking 3 meals a day, which we weren't doing before the pandemic.
Right.
And we're trying to figure out how to be with our family 24/7. To just expect yourself to just pivot and figure that all out. It's not a poof, this will all happen. It's very intentional. And when I think about balance, and I have to remind myself continually that it's critical to block time to think, it's critical to block time to plan, and it's critical to remember that there are multiple facets of your life. So to try and do everything, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose, right? Like it's too overwhelming. But I find if you break it down into small sections, it's doable. And also just having that plan, knowing, okay, from 3 to 5 today, I'm not going to be working. I'm going to spend some time with my son. We'll shoot some hoops in the driveway. And then we're going to have leftovers for dinner. It's a plan. It's not a fancy plan. It's not written down anywhere, but it's a plan. Excuse me.
So here's the thing that I find so interesting. Approaching this topic, this idea, years ago, I had this, sort of fairy tale romantic vision of what balance looked like. And it was being able to almost allocate myself equally to the different areas of my life. And what I have since learned, especially since I became a business owner and started working from home and then had my son, is that balance for me is a very personal thing around the idea that I can prioritize what needs to be prioritized when it needs to be a priority. So, if I need to take a full day and focus on my son or something in particular going on in his life, I can do that. I don't have someone to report to or to ask permission of. Right. If I want to take off for a weekend because I want to go train my team on a particular topic and I need that intensive focus, that I can do that. And I love that feeling of balance, but what it has required of me is a lot of personal development and self-awareness. And the self-awareness is really around, like, what are the values that I cherish deeply? What are my 3 top values in life that are non-negotiables that have to be at the forefront at all times? And once I did that, it was about alignment, right? It was about not choosing to take off the hats in between the moments. Like, today I'm being mom, today I'm being the wife, today I'm being this. It was about always wearing the values. And if I always had the values on, then I could just stack my hats. It reminds me of like a book I was reading when I was a kid, the man has stacked all the hats. And stay in that lane. And I love that you use that actual expression, stay in your lane, right? So I think that this is where I see a lot of professionals in my industry struggle initially when they come to me. It's that they don't necessarily have that level of self-awareness. They might be great business women, and they might be great at their craft, but they haven't necessarily taken the time to dig deep and think about what are the values that I'm living out on a daily basis. Do you find that at all in your work? Do you expect to have to, work with that as you build this new level of your business?
For sure. And I think one thing that working women are guilty of is the expectation of having to do it all at the same time. Yeah. I mean, when you think about what messaging comes from our society, when you look at any women's magazine, whether it's Good Housekeeping, Real Simple, Better Homes and Gardens, every magazine focuses on a few key issues: how to lose 10 pounds immediately, how to cook quick dinners, and how to professionally develop yourself, right? So those are 3 things. The messaging, I love reading magazines, but the messaging is, you're not good enough. What you're doing right now isn't working. You're a hot mess and you need to change your entire life, right? And then throw in social media, where we're constantly watching people on Instagram reorganizing their closets so they look pristine. We're told to eat a plant-based diet or gluten or vegan or whatever is the flavor du jour. We're supposed to buy ethically made products for our children. We're supposed to walk 10,000 steps. We're supposed to take care of our hair and our nails. We're supposed to be the perfect wife. It's not reasonable. It's not. I mean, sometimes if you let it go, it can really get to you and like, oh my God, I have all these things that I'm not doing. And for a lot of people, that's paralyzing. When we're bombarded all day long with you should, you need to take the shoulds out and focus on a few things that you can do. And you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. It's just not realistic for anybody. And that pressure, I just people paralyzed. And I listened to a podcast and my friend is on it and she always says, just because you can do things doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And, just because you can cook homemade meals and it might save you $5, might not mean that you shouldn't get Wegmans to deliver you a fresh salad and some soup once a week to cut down on the stress. So I'm a huge believer in picking out what you can and can't, what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I say that frequently, by the way, to stop shooting on yourself. And I think, the other thing that I hear in there that's so powerful is, back to that idea about the values, when we're focused on who we're being rather than what we're doing, right? And allowing that to be what defines our self-worth, right? Our self-worth is inherent. We've somehow tied it through all that messaging that you're talking about to our productivity, to the things that we're being told we should do. But if we can remember who we are and focus on coming from that place of values, then it realigns all of it, which is powerful. So
for sure.
What you're doing in this pivot is so powerful, right? Because during this time, I know you mentioned the last time we spoke that your practice had, sort of taken a little bit of a shift to where it's more efficient and you have less employees. And so you took this time to say, okay, what really lights me up? What really excites me? You began this journey to getting Highwire Women off the ground. What excites you the most as you look into the future and you see the work that you will be doing?
I'm super excited. I mean, I can't sleep at night because, not that I'm stressed out, I'm just so excited to kick this off because we're in a really unique time right now. We're all rebuilding. This is an equal playing field. There's not one person that's working right now that is going to be able to just shift back to what they did, 3 months ago. Everything's changed. It's an equal playing field. And I can't wait to work with people and women in terms of how to rebuild that version of yourself, your 2.0. What's it going to look like? What are you going to do personally? What are you going to do professionally? The world as we know it, I think, is over. At least for the next year or so, until we can get our hands around this virus. But our lives are going to look very different. And I think so many businesses are going to reassess and say, this work from home thing is really efficient. We don't need this big footprint anymore. We don't need all of our workers in the office. What we need is people to just be home and be efficient. So I'm super excited to work with people in terms of how they're going to rebuild, whether it's personally, professionally, whether someone's planning to give a seminar or speaking. That's all changed. I travel a lot for business and do a lot of speaking. All of the requests I'm getting now are for virtual seminars, conferences. That's a whole different territory. You can't just throw on your iPhone and go.
Right.
It's the technology, the logistics are challenging for most. So I'm really excited to get my hands into it and just help people because I bring so much to the table. I've lived this every single day for the last 15 years, and I've learned a lot of painful lessons, but I've also learned a lot of tips and tricks that so many people can benefit from. And I'm super excited to share that knowledge.
Excellent. I'm super excited as well. I will be following this journey every step of the way.
Thank you.
So on that note, what are some of the best ways for people to get in touch with you and to keep up with what you're doing?
Sure. So our website is called highwirewoman.com. And if they go on highwirewomen.com, they'll see who we are, what we do. There's a contact form. If anyone has questions about, hey, I might need your help, or what can you help me with, fill that out. We're just in the process of getting our social channels lined up, so that'll be next. But highwirewoman.com is the best place to contact me. And I'm super excited. I'll be on a podcast at the end of the month called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's a huge international podcast. Great grace to listen and learn about things that can revolutionize your life. So we're really excited to get this off the ground.
I'm so grateful to have this time with you. And, speaking with you, Rosanna, reminds me of the Howard Thurman quote where he talks about, how we need more people who know what lights them up on the inside so that they can come alive and truly come alive. And when we do that, it takes me to the Marianne Williamson quote about, being that so that we can give permission to others to do the same. And as people begin to rebuild and even reimagine and reinvent themselves in so many ways, as you are during this time, I truly believe that you will be a beautiful beacon for a lot of people, not just the ones who are continuing on and just looking for ways to realign and reassess and really focus their energies, but also the people who are looking for the inspiration and who are looking for the guidance as they grow into this 2.0 version of themselves. So thank you so much for doing the work that you're doing.
Welcome.
Thank you for the work that you've done before. And I look forward to having you back so that we can
thank you
later this fall.
For sure. Thanks for having me. And this is a scary time. Everybody is feeling a lot of anxiety about what's next, but as long as you have a blueprint and a plan, you'll be good to go. So looking forward to working with everyone. And thanks so much, Melissa, for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Thanks.